All right. Hi, everyone. It looks like it's 11. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And, all right. So hopefully you're looking at the awesome Apps for Little Learners slides right now. Hopefully that's what you're seeing. Happy to welcome you here. I'm hearing all kinds of great feedback so far from everyone participating in the Mountain Moot. Lots of great sessions and things being learned, so that's really exciting. I am at my very first Mountain Moot. I haven't been here before, so I'm learning along with all of you kind of about the platform and all that kind of good stuff. So it's been really fun for me as well. The session you're in right now is Awesome Apps for Little Learners. There is a bit.ly there, bit.ly moot K2 apps will take you to these slides. They're also posted in the course. So when you go back to kind of the Moodle page for this session, the slides are listed here. I also put some additional links down here that might be helpful. There is a collection of apps that I'll reference later in the presentation, and the link is here. I also linked to my website. And for those of you who don't already receive my weekly newsletter, you can see the archive of that weekly newsletter here as well. So lots of resources also listed in the Moodle section for this class. So please be sure to go back and click on those links as well. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Tracy Piltz. I am a technology integration specialist for Billings Public Schools in Billings, Montana. I work mostly with our kindergarten, first and second grade teachers and students, just helping them integrate technology and meaningful media, that's hard to say, into their classrooms. My classroom teaching experiences in kindergarten. I taught kindergarten for 12 years. I was one of the first classrooms in our district to have one-to-one technology of any type. We had one-to-one iPads in kindergarten. And so while that was a wonderful opportunity, it was also a time of definitely a lot of exploration and learning. And so I'm happy now to kind of help and support other teachers in that same journey as they're sort of learning how to use these technologies with their students as well. So really happy to be here sharing that with you today. I want to dive right in, sort of piggybacking off of that and really talking about this meaningful media use. I think that this is a really important conversation to have as we're talking about technology and devices with our students, and particularly with our younger students, our littlest learners. Just making sure that what we're asking them to do is really meaningful. I mentioned that I was one of the first classrooms here in our district to have iPads or one-to-one technology. And again, that was with kindergarten. And so you can imagine some people were really excited by that. They thought it was fantastic that we were sort of exploring those one-to-one digital tools with such young students, and other parents and admin could be a little bit skeptical of that, where they thought that the kids were going to walk in the door and I would hand them their iPad and tell them have a great day, spend your day playing around on your iPad, and I'll be in the corner with my feet up or something. And so it was really important to me that we were engaging in really meaningful uses of that technology, and then also finding ways to demonstrate and share that with others so that administrators and other teachers and parents knew that how we were using that technology was obviously for learning and for really meaningful purposes. So this has been something that's always been really important to me, is that we're not using it as a toy, we're using it as a tool in our classrooms. So I have had the opportunity to join the ISTE Early Learning Network as a board member this past spring, and be involved in some of these webinars that they offered. If you haven't checked any of these out, I would definitely recommend, there's a link at the bottom of this slide that has the webinar recordings and the resources from those webinars. But so much amazing information was shared, again, specific to like pre-K through second grade students and teachers. But one of the things that really stuck out to me was in this one particular webinar, this quote from David Kleeman, who is the former president of the American Center for Children in Media. But we were talking about this whole idea of screen time. And this quote was, "This ubiquitous interactivity. The concept of screen time has become meaningless in a world where screens bring entertainment, learning, discovery, communication, play, creation, and more." And this really made me think, because I feel like I spend a lot of my time thinking and talking and answering questions about screen time and how much is too much screen time. You know, if they're using screens at school, can they be using them at home, etc., etc. I'm sure you've had these same conversations. And so this was really a light bulb moment for me, where, you know, kind of in our current world, why are we still asking this question about screen time? Because screens are ubiquitous in our world, they're ubiquitous in our society. And it really has become more about how we're utilizing those screens, and the kinds of things, how are we interacting with that media, or how are we interacting with the things that we're doing on those screens. That's what really should be the conversation that we're having, because we're using screens all the time. You know, we think about ourselves as grown-ups, we're using screens all the time. I think about the situation that we had as part of distance learning. What would we have done without screens right now to be able to meet together virtually and connect with, you know, people from all over the world? That's pretty miraculous. And to stay connected to our family and our students and, you know, the families of our students. And so we've moved where tech tools and screens are really all about those connections. And so Chip Donahue in the same webinar said, "We've moved from imagining how tech could foster those human connections to relying on tools for those connections." And he said we should be celebrating those screens as lifelines for supporting human development and social emotional needs. And so this was just a whole new take that, like I said, was really like a total light bulb moment for me. So I noted another resource here. If you haven't ever checked out commonsense.org, so many amazing resources there, but particularly they released a digital citizenship curriculum that I think is really fantastic. It's scaffolded for different grade levels. It's all available for free. When you click on that link, that commonsense.org link that are on these slides, it will prompt you to create an account in order to unlock their content, but you can get everything for free. So it's slides that you can present to your students, it's printables, it's activities, there's little songs that go along with it. And again, it's all scaffolded. And what I really love, I started looking at the kindergarten and first grade, and the beginning of those lessons are all about media balance. And so I love that it really speaks right to this. How are we using media? How are we using technology? And how are we finding that balance? So maybe you just spent some time playing a game on your iPad. Now what are you going to go do next? And kind of having that discussion with kids. Now I'm going to go outside and I'm going to play basketball for a little bit because I like playing basketball and I like being outside too. And so those lessons are really fantastic. And I think speak really well to that, I guess, that balance, and that how are we interacting with the screens? What types of things are we doing with the screens? The other thing that Chip Donahue said in that webinar that I found to be really powerful is he said parents right now expect educators to be experts on using media and technology. They expect that we know, right? I know that I worked with a ton of teachers this past spring where a parent would email the teacher and then the teacher would email me for support because the teacher wasn't quite sure. But the parent emailing the teacher in the first place is showing they expect them to be able to support them. They expect them to be able to answer the question when they, can't get into Clever or can't log into their Seesaw account, or I want to supplement with a really good reading app. Can you recommend a reading app to me? So they're reaching out to teachers to be those mentors and to be those experts. And I really think that that's a call to action for us as educators, that we really need to step up. We need to, be okay filling that role and learning so that we can be those mentors and those supports to our parents and our families. And so the fact that you all are here today joining shows that you also think that that's really an important thing to learn how to do, because you want to learn about these tools that you can share with your students and their families. So this next slide, I'm not going to play this video, but I saw it on Twitter last week and I thought it was really fantastic. Again, it's Common Sense Education partnered with PBS created this video, and it's screen time, how much is too much? And it really speaks to exactly those things that David Kleeman and Chip Donahue and Lisa Guernsey had said in that Early Learning Network webinar. It really is about the types of interactions that you're having. There's a difference between me, sitting on my Instagram or whatever and just kind of blindly scrolling through things than actually using my screen to, connect with you guys right now or create something. And so it's really more about that balance of how we're interacting with the screen. So if that's something that you find to be interesting or want to learn a little bit more about, or even share with your families, this would be a great little resource to share with families. Again, this video is embedded on these slides. I also put a link here where I found this video. They have a whole playlist of media and tech sort of videos similar to this from KQED and Common Sense Education. And so you can find that playlist here, and there's lots of other videos that address kind of these media and tech use sorts of questions. I just dove in and started talking without sort of taking the time to tell you, and some of you are doing this, which is awesome, but please utilize the chat box. If you have thoughts, if you have questions, please utilize that chat box. Some of you are already doing that and sharing resources and thoughts and ideas, which is awesome. As I'm presenting, if you have a question, I'm trying to look at the chat box, but if I miss your question and you need to get my attention, please feel free to unmute yourself and just grab my attention, and I'll do my best to answer for you. Thanks, Peggy. So with all of sort of those things in mind that we just talked about, I really love this framework. This is from PBS Kids, just these approaches for integrating media and digital tools. And it's probably a lot of what you're thinking or doing anyway, but I really like that, again, it's just kind of a guide or a framework where they list these things out. So as I'm looking for a tool or creating a lesson, I can be thinking where does this fit in this framework? And I really like that. So sort of the 6 approaches here are sparking. So just sparking that interest, looking for tools that will help us with that, with the group discussions, maybe introducing a topic of some sort. Modeling, I think, can mean a couple of things. We can seek out media where characters are modeling certain behaviors or skills that we want our students to practice, but then also I think we as grown-ups can be modeling sort of appropriate ways for students to engage with the tools, whether it be media or digital tools or that type of thing. Exploring kind of feeds into this whole inquiry. How do we use digital tools to investigate, you know, and learn more about maybe a topic that we want to go a little bit more deep into? Creating is probably where I probably spend my most time. I like all the rest, but I love getting kids in to really make and create and do things. So lots of tools to, you know, let students share their learning in multiple different ways by using these digital tools to kind of create, to share that learning. Documenting, of course, is really important. And I think, again, back to my time in kindergarten, this is when I really started seeking a digital portfolio platform, because again, I felt like I really needed to be documenting and demonstrating to people what we were using those tools to create. They aren't just sitting there like watching YouTube or playing games all day long. They really are using these iPads to make some really amazing things. But I didn't want those just living on the iPads where they never got to publish them anywhere. And so finding a space where you can document that, and then also that documentation for, you know, for our record keeping, right? To be able to give students a space to demonstrate their learning. And I really look for digital tools where I could capture both the digital things that they make, but then also capture that hands-on learning that was happening as well and store that in a digital space. And then of course, sharing. So I think that goes hand in hand with documenting. Once we have that saved somewhere, to be able to share those items with others, whether that be classmates or family members or other teachers, so that we can support that student. Just having a space to share, I think, is incredibly important. So this next slide here has a link to a Jamboard. I don't know if any of you have used Jamboard before. This is a Google tool. I'm going to drop the link in the chat box too if you don't have the slides up. You should be able to click on the link and get to this Jamboard. It's sort of like a collaborative whiteboard tool. You can see that you could draw on it, you could add sticky notes to it. It's real time, super easy to get people to join in. So you see, I just sent you a link. You can just click on it, and now we're all here sharing in this space. And so I just want you to take a few minutes to share some ways that you've used media and digital tools in your classroom. So maybe some of your favorite digital tools, you know, any kinds of media that you use. I'm going to shrink up my stuff a little bit to give us a little bit more room. You can draw on it, which would probably get really messy. So I would recommend perhaps clicking on over on this sort of left side here, the toolbar. If you click where it says sticky note, you can add a note here and then just go ahead and type your idea and click save, and then it'll show up on this board where everyone can see it and kind of learn from one another. So I'm going to keep talking for a few minutes, but please hop on here and start sharing some ideas, and then we'll hop back over to see what you're writing. Also on the slide, I linked over here to a blog post from Susan Stewart. She's someone I follow on Twitter who does a ton of work with like Google G Suite tools with elementary. And this Jamboard is a G Suite tool. It's a Google tool. But she has so many super cool ideas for how you could use this Jamboard tool with your young students. So I'm just kind of scrolling through here right now. But some really neat ideas. One thing I like is that even though it's a Google tool, I can just grab a link like I did right now and share it with you all, where it's editable by anyone. You don't have to log in. So again, I could do this with first graders. They wouldn't have to log into a Google account. They would just click on that link and get to our Jamboard and be able to contribute. So anyway, that link is there if it's something you want to investigate a little bit more. I'm going to pop back over to our Jamboard. Oh, good. And we're seeing lots of ideas here. So tools that you use that you're sharing. Seesaw. Oh, good. Lots of Seesaw friends. Seesaw,
Tracy?
we'll talk. Yeah.
Hey, Tracy, I didn't see how to do that. I didn't see the link. Where is the link?
So I put the link, it's in the slide. If you have the slides up, you could just click on this image, the one that like has the blue line about
Yeah,
around
that's
it.
okay. That's what I thought, but it's not working for me. Okay, that's okay. I'll move
I
on.
also just dropped it. So if you have the chat box open, I'll put it in there again. I put
Hmm.
the link in the chat box. So you could
Okay.
just click
Oh, I see. All
chat
right. Thanks,
box.
love.
Yeah,
Bye bye.
absolutely. And we'll talk about Seesaw a little bit more. Google Slides. Awesome. Social media. I love that. Using social media can be a great tool. I actually started using one of the first digital tools I used with my kindergartners was Twitter. And no, I did not just put them on Twitter and like, hey, here you go, Johnny, start tweeting. But we had a class Twitter account that I moderated, and we shared a lot of, things that we did in our classroom out on Twitter. It was really a great way to connect with classrooms from around the country and the world, which was amazing. I'm going to let you keep adding there, and of course keep that tab open so you can keep checking what your colleagues are posting. And I'm going to keep talking because I'm afraid I'm afraid this time is going to go quickly on us. So I'm just going to kind of go through each of these 6 approaches and sort of share some of my favorite tools for each approach. So when we're talking about sparking that interest and sparking that learning, these are 2 of my favorites. Wonderopolis is something I used all the time in my kindergarten classroom. It's just sort of like a curiosity website. So they have all these different wonders listed on there, and it'll start with just a picture. So when my kindergartners walked in, I just had a picture displayed up on our board, and then they each had a wonder journal, just a notebook that was their wonder journal. And they knew that once they, hang up your backpack, get settled, and then you just sit down and start writing in your wonder journal. So they would just start writing things that they wondered about that picture. And I'll tell you what, those kids were the best ever at writing questions. Like it almost was like they couldn't just write a sentence anymore. Everything had to turn into but I wonder if everything was a question. But it was such a great way to start sparking that curiosity and that interest. A free website after you kind of looked at the picture, they always have a little video that goes along with it and then some text. So sometimes on the topic we would dive into it and learn a little bit more. Sometimes it was just sort of we left it at the wonder and we didn't really do a whole lot more with it. But definitely one of my favorites. Also, as of about last year, if Flipgrid is a tool you use, when you go into the Flipgrid Discovery Library, Wonderopolis is one of the kind of companies that's partnered with them. So they already have a bunch of Flipgrid topics in there that are attached to Wonderopolis Wonders. And so you could just assign that, your kids do the wonder, and then they do a Flipgrid video sort of telling what they wonder, which is pretty cool. I'm going to click on this video down here because I think it does a better job of showing what this Khan Academy Kids is than me explaining it to you. But this, again, is a fairly new app.
Growing up is exciting. There are so many firsts to discover. Your first word, your first book, your first day of school, and with each new thing you learn, you grow. At Khan Academy, we embrace and celebrate learning at all ages. We created Khan Academy Kids to spark the joy of learning in kids ages 2 through 7. Through thousands of activities, books, and videos, kids can read, play, learn, and grow. Narrator Cody Bear and her friends guide kids through the app, encouraging creativity, curiosity, and kindness. Because we believe that everyone should have access to learning, Khan Academy Kids is completely free. No ads, no subscriptions. Khan Academy Kids, now celebrating first words through first grade, available in the App Store, Google Play, and Amazon.
So again, totally free, pretty new app. They're actually just updating it a little bit for the fall where there's more of a teacher onboarding process that I think will be really helpful. But you can see that there's so much great content in there and then a whole bunch of books. So I think, gosh, how cool to, have them explore a topic that's of interest to them in the book. And then they have like a creation tool in there where they could kind of like share their wondering or whatever. So again, totally free. Great app I would definitely recommend that you check out for sparking that interest. Modeling is that next approach. And again, I think there's different ways to look at modeling. This is sort of that approach of characters modeling certain behaviors or skills. I feel like PBS Kids has so many great resources and apps and programs that do a great job of this. These are just a couple of them. Xavier Riddle is a newer program, but it's all about sort of heroes, and they travel in this time machine back in time and visit important figures from history, and then just kind of explore the characteristics of those historic figures. The game that goes along with it is a hero maker game, and so again, it's a digital game where students can then kind of find the attributes and characteristics that they would put together to create their own hero. And then the Daniel Tiger resources, again, they look a little bit more for like preschool, pre-K, but there's so many social, emotional, like feelings, lots of stuff about like when the coronavirus was kind of first a thing. Why do we wash our hands? How are we staying hygienic and things like that? And so I think there's still a lot in there for our younger students that is super helpful. Again, apps, go to the PBS Learning Media website. You'll be blown away by how many resources are there. Little video snippets, teacher resources, printables, online games, tons and tons of resources all available to you for free. I think the other part of this modeling is teachers modeling kind of their behavior, or grown-ups, it could be parents too, modeling their own interactions with tech and media. I think also modeling problem solving and perseverance and grit and those types of skills is super important as well. So I settled on coding apps. I think are a really great way for us to model these types of behaviors for our students. One of my favorites, again, a free app, PBS Kids has a Scratch Junior version. Regular Scratch Junior is awesome too. What I really like about PBS Kids Scratch Junior, I'm going to click on this link, is they have this whole sort of site full of teacher resources for helping your kids learn this. So sometimes when I do coding, because it's not something that I'm like super comfortable with, I'm like, here, problem solve, figure it out. But I feel like there's not a lot of direction there. I like that when I use this, I have this scaffolded support. So I know I could go to the tree problem and it's going to walk me through step by step, what are my goals, what's my vocabulary, what are my materials, and what I'm going to do in this lesson to support my students. All of these lessons have a little video snippet from a PBS Kids program. So they would watch this little video snippet, and then at the end, it sort of introduces a problem, and then I give them time on the app to create. And I love that now their backgrounds and characters and everything are going to match what they saw on that episode. So now they can solve that problem by using all of those same kind of props and that sort of thing. So anyway, I love the resources and those scaffolded lessons. But again, a great opportunity to model for your students, like, I'm not quite sure how to do this, so let's just work through it together, and you model that you're still a learner. This little GIF that's sort of sliding around over here, if you click on that, it'll take you to a Wakelet collection that has lots of other coding apps, games, hands-on kinds of things, printables, like unplugged sorts of things. So just a bunch of coding resources if you're interested in looking at more. Explore. So this piece I think is really important, where we're investigating, learning more about particular topics, giving students, ways to do that investigation. So Epic is another free in school. Peggy, I think Scratch Junior does work on Kindle Fire, but you might have to click on that website to look for sure. I know it's only an app, it doesn't work on the web, but you might have to see if it shows up like in the Android or Google Play Store. I'm not 100% sure on that. Good question. Epic is free for educators. Again, just a rich library of books that students can investigate to learn more about a topic. Kiddle is a search engine, kind of like Google, but it's a visual search engine for our younger students. It's really visual and it's filtered. So it's a great space if I'm learning about penguins. I can have my students go to Kiddle. It's not an app, it's just a website. So they could go on any browser to Kiddle, type that in, and then be led to some articles and some information about penguins. The other two things I sort of noted down here are more for the images that we use. So a whole other conversation is, teaching our students to use copyright-free, fair use images and that type of thing when they're making their creations. I think we do a really good job of talking about plagiarism, right? They know that they can't take other people's words, but we don't always talk about this piece about we can't also do like a Google search and find a picture of penguins and just grab it because that might be a copyrighted image. So as part of the PBS Media Literacy program that I did with a few other teachers, this was something that we really investigated, and we had these conversations with first and second graders, and it went really well. They were able to understand. So these are a couple of sources for finding those copyright-free images. So Pics for Learning is a website, and then the Adobe sort of toolbox. If I go into Adobe Spark or Adobe the video creator, I know that the images that I'm searching there are fair use images that are fine for me to use. We also really try to encourage students to create their own, either take their own pictures or create their own illustrations, whether they be digital or hand-drawn illustrations, and incorporate those into their final products after they've done their exploration and their research. So here's an example. This is from a first grade classroom created using the app Apple Clips, which is a free app only on iPad devices or iPhones. I'll go ahead and play this for you.
I know that penguins are different kinds of species. I know that penguins eat fish. I know that penguins do not fly. Do you like penguins?
So again, they had done all that, research, exploration. They had found their own images. They'd created some of their own images. They drafted everything, paper and pencil, teacher edited it, and then this was sort of that final product at the end. That leads right into creating, which again, like I said, I had a really hard time narrowing down my creations. So I created this whole collection here. So you can link to it. Whoops. Maybe you can't link to it. You would maybe just have to copy and paste. And then again, this is the collection that's linked in that Moodle course to get to this, but it's sort of crowdsourced. I put it out on Twitter. So it's teachers from all over sharing their favorite creation apps for K2. And I love doing that because it's cool seeing like the same ones. Like I know the ones that I'm using and sharing are great because when we ask people from all over the world, they're the same ones everybody is using and sharing. So that would be a good place to search for even more, but this just kind of highlights some of my top favorites. I really like Do Ink. It's probably one of the only tools I've listed in the presentation today that has a little bit of a cost. This app I believe is $2.99, but it's not an app you would need on every one of your devices, maybe one or two. It's a green screen app, so your students can either use it for like creating little videos, maybe Legos and clay and that kind of thing, or like this example, they had done their research and then to publish it, they got to pick a picture of whatever they researched and then read their research paper with this image behind them. So here's a quick example.
Mice are the best because they eat bugs for us. Mice are the best because they are cute sometimes. I like mice.
So again, it was super motivating for them to finish their writing because they knew that they got to do this little green screen video at the end. Another favorite, I've been using it for years, it's still one of my favorites, is Chatterpix Kids by Duck Duck Moose. It's free. Literally, they just take a picture of anything, draw a little mouth on it, and make it talk. So it's such a fun and creative way to just share their learning about anything. Take a picture of a paper they just did and tell me about the problems. Take a picture of, you know, blocks they put together, put a little face on the blocks and have them talk to me. This is an example from a kindergarten classroom where they did this little penguin activity. You know, they had to do a craft, and then the teacher had them take a picture of their craft, and then use the Chatterpix to say the letter and the sounds.
P says like a penguin.
And I like how she makes like a little chant, like a penguin. But I love that not only did that make it a little bit more fun and engaging for the students, but it also gives myself as a teacher a little bit more information, right? I didn't just have them make the penguin and stick the letter P on it. She has to tell me, does she know what sound that letter makes? Does she know what the name of that letter is? And so it gives me as a teacher a little bit more information too. I also love Pic Collage. This is another one I would pay for. There is a free version of Pic Collage and then Pic Collage EDU, which I believe is $1.99. It's a little bit more filtered. You get tons of like free stickers and that sort of thing. I literally use this for like anything you can think of. There's so many embedded tools here. They can search for images, they can add their own picture, they can annotate, they can type. There's stickers and fun backgrounds, so they really like that creative process there. But you know, go around the room, take pictures of ways to make 10 and make a collage, measure things, take pictures and use the pen to annotate and tell me how long it was or whatever. This is a creation where again he was able to add in his picture. He could kind of trim around himself, so it's like a green screen without having to put up the green screen, and then he could add in his background and search for an image. So really fun ways to share learning. And then another free app that I love is this stop motion app. Where students can make stop motion videos. This was an idea from Desiree Caskey where they are building word family words using stop motion, so they have to kind of move things around. You could do this again for all sorts of things, storytelling, math problems. I really like, it's pretty collaborative. I usually have them work together with a partner, so somebody has to be like the picture taker and somebody's the mover, and they have to talk to each other or else it turns into a big disaster. So I really like that they have to communicate and collaborate. And I'm apologizing because I know I'm talking super fast, but I'm watching the clock and just want to be sure we get through everything. So documenting, we talked about the importance of documenting, just having a space where we can be documenting students' learning, you know, a space where then we can share that out with others. And so these are a few tools that I love using for documenting. Flipgrid, we touched on briefly. Free tool, focuses mostly on video, so I can give students a prompt and then they respond to me with video. They're adding tons of new features. You can now do a screen record or a screencast. They have a new whiteboard feature, so instead of it having to be a video of my face, I could put up a whiteboard. I could be drawing, doing a math problem, and talking at the same time. So lots that you could do pretty easily with Flipgrid. Padlet and Jamboard, I think, are kind of similar, sort of collaborative board tools where you could either share information or have students contribute, again, by drawing, you know, putting in some text and that sort of thing. Both are free. And then Seesaw, we touched on a little bit. You've noticed when I clicked on all of those examples, those are all living in Seesaw. So again, that is my sort of favorite, like, first tool that I introduced, because to me that's that hub, that's that space where all of this other stuff we're making and doing is getting added into Seesaw to share. I like that I can add in digital creations, and then I can also just use the camera and take pictures of Play-Doh and blocks and add my voice to it. So that's kind of that hub where it's really easy to sort of document and then from there share with others. And again, by sharing, you know, I think it's important that students are publishing to an audience. And so maybe that's their classmates, maybe it's their peers, maybe it's their families. And so these tools all make it really easy to share in both of those ways. Kid Blog is one that I noted down there. That's actually the first portfolio tool I started using. And then I moved on to Seesaw just because I was looking for something a little bit more comprehensive and robust. And then I know a lot of teachers are using Class Dojo. That obviously started as more of a like communication behavior tool, which it still is, but it does have a portfolio piece built in now as well that some teachers are utilizing. The little GIF that's going right there is just sort of a little shot from my family side of Seesaw. So you can kind of see how easy it is to share with families. As a parent, I only see my students' work, my own child's work posted in her journal, but then it also has a tool built in where I can be sending messages and announcements just directly with families as well. So something that functions a little bit like Remind. Okay, I went super duper fast because I wanted to leave a chunk of time to answer questions and then share here. So I'm gonna just point out also on this Jamboard, and then I'm gonna call for questions. On the same Jamboard, if you still have it open, if you toggle to the next pages, there are some spaces here to sort of leave some reflections and ideas. So what are 3 important points that you took away? So things that you really are like, oh yeah, I love that, I really want to use that. What kind of connected to your thinking, like, oh, I do this, I could use this tool, this will connect really well, and things that you're still wondering. So if you're on this Jamboard and want to add some thoughts in there, I think that would be awesome. You can also type any questions that you have over here in the chat box. I see that Peggy put a question. Okay, I'll go to Terry's first. So Terry just asked, are the new features in Seesaw only on the paid version? No. I'll try to see how quick I can get here. They just dropped some really cool new features. So now in a drawing template, you can embed a video right into the drawing slide, and you can also link into the drawing slide. They're not available only on the paid version. Free users can also access these. It's just a little bit limited. I think you have multiple video on the paid version, just one on the free version. And then because on the free version, you don't have, like I have a multi-page, I could add many pages here. So I can also do a draw and record past all of those pages. I could click on this microphone and record what I'm saying on each page. You can't do that on the free version because you only have one page. But otherwise, when I click here, like on the camera, I could now click on video, and it'll open up that Seesaw video recording tool, and it'll let me record right here. Let's see. Let's start recording. So I can record, I could read a story, I could give a little mini lesson, I could give some instructions, and then when my video is done, I'm gonna resize it, and I could have that living right here on the slide. So then again, I could use the rest of this to type in my instructions or the template that I want them to respond to, and my video is gonna sit and live here the whole time, which is cool. And then I also have this link feature here now, so I can add live links. So I could link it to a shape. I could link it to whatever I want, but I could put a little link here. Let's say I want to I don't know, have it go to like math virtual, like virtual tools for math manipulatives, or a story I want them to read, I could put that link right here. You'll also be able to link in the paid version, like to another page. So if I have 3 pages, I could link this to go to another page. Parents have to be connected to Seesaw. Yep, they would have to be connected to your Seesaw account to see anything that you have posted. And when you sign up for Seesaw, there's some instructions on how to get families connected for free, and so that they can view. Again, they'll only see their kids' work or things that you post as messages or announcements. Peggy had asked about permission to share child's creations online. Our district does like a media release that sort of applies to, you know, sharing anywhere in the newspaper, online, etc. I typically, when I was in the classroom, I added an additional sheet to that. I'm not sure if this would like hold up or whatever, but I always just wanted to make parents aware of what other tools we were using. So I would maybe say, we're also using KidBlog and we will be putting things on KidBlog. If you have questions, let me know. I really have very rarely had anyone have concerns about it. Sometimes they don't want their kid in a picture. You can pretty easily set it up so that, you just don't include that particular kid in a picture or video. For the most part, because like say I'm using Seesaw, parents who have reservations, once I explain to them, or once a principal explains to them what Seesaw is and how it works, we haven't had anyone say, nope, I still don't want to do it. Like once we explain it to them, they're comfortable with it because they know it's really private and secure. It's not difficult at all to add videos from other apps to Seesaw. So anything, again, this is one of the reasons I started using Seesaw. These are all the tools that you have access to. So I clicked on that drawing tool. I love that all that's embedded. So I don't really have to, unless I want to, go to all these other apps. I could do that right in Seesaw. I love that I don't have to take a picture and then upload it. Like I could just open the camera right here, or the video right here. Anything that I make anywhere else, I could just click on this upload button. So if I've got it in my Google Drive, if I've saved it onto my iPad somewhere, anything I've got saved to my device, I can upload using this upload tool. So super easy, again, to share digital things you've made, and then also just take pictures of your papers, your writing, your Play-Doh, your blocks, and put that all in one space. Lots of good questions. We've only got like 3 or 4 minutes left. If you have other questions, drop them in the chat box or unmute yourself and go ahead and ask. I'm going to pop back into here. Okay. And see if there's anything here. Oh, good. I'm glad lots of you are picking up on. And absolutely, young kids are completely capable of utilizing these tools in the classroom. I think sometimes it's us as the grown-ups who are reluctant because we feel like we have to know everything and before we, hand it over to them. And I mean, we're never going to know all of this. And so I think being comfortable, and that's a hard thing, but being comfortable with knowing that we're sometimes going to be learning right along with them, and that's okay. Chatterpix and Do Ink can be used on Seesaw. So again, anything that you make, if you can save it to a device, it can be uploaded to Seesaw. So you just would have to save it somewhere and then upload it. Chatterpix is just an app, so it wouldn't be on like a Chromebook or anything. Some of the apps transfer to the Chromebooks. So a lot of what we looked at are just apps that wouldn't work on the Chromebook. So like Khan Academy Kids, what did I just say? Chatterpix, Do Ink. A lot of those are just apps that aren't going to work on a Chromebook, unfortunately. Oh, Emily, I love it. She said she was amazed to see how quickly her students caught on to Seesaw. I loved, my sister teaches kindergarten at Arrowhead, and she said, you know, when they went distance learning, all these parents were asking questions like, how do I do this? How do I get on here? And she's trying to like troubleshoot and help them. And finally, she just started saying, hand your student the iPad. They'll know what to do. And they truly did, because it was part of her routine. Her kids knew what to do. All they had to do was hand the student the iPad, and they knew how to log in. They knew how to use the tools. And so, you know, knowing that our students are capable, again, I think the key is making sure that it's introduced and it becomes a part of our routine. Again, that balance, but it's a part of our routine. And so they know how to access these tools and know how to use these tools. Yay, I'm glad you guys got lots of resources. Again, in the Moodle course, lots of links here for the slides if you didn't grab them, that app collection that I have, my website, and then the archive of my newsletter if you don't get that. So lots of resources there. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, I think just under, I started talking really fast, so we got through it. So yay us. Thanks again so much for joining. I hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen and then we'll end this session.
Thank you, everyone. I will stop recording now.